There's a ton of behind-the-scenes magic that makes the Wheel of Time so immersive. Today on Collider, we take a look at how it all comes together. When the Wheel of Time premiered its third season, one moment fans had been eagerly waiting for was Rand's journey to the mystical city of Rhuidean. This wasn't just any ordinary scene. It's where Rand undergoes an intense trial to solidify his place as the Karakarn, the prophesied leader of the Ale. Fans of Robert Jordan's books were already familiar with this moment, and the show's team was under a lot of pressure to make it as spectacular as the source material promised. The man behind the camera for this episode, The Road to the Spear, was director Thomas Napper. In an interview with Collider, he dove into the massive behind-the-scenes effort that went into creating this mind-bending sequence. It's clear that a lot of thought, planning, and creativity went into making Rhuidean feel like a true part of the show. Napper's first step was diving deep into preparation. "I spoke to Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, months before anything had been agreed upon," he said. "I was actually working on a film in Paris, but I knew I had to get started early on this. I'll be honest, I was a bit worried about it. It felt like a huge undertaking, and that's putting it mildly. To say this scene was challenging is an understatement. To start, Rhuidean wasn't going to be a physical set they could build in a studio. Napper and the team decided early on to create it all with smoke and visual effects. We had a stage, a model of a stage, and we were moving pieces around for months," Napper revealed. "We created 7 versions of Rhuidean just on a stage to figure out how we could make this work. There were so many smoke tests, we probably drove people mad with how much time we spent getting the right density of smoke." The complexity of Rhuidean didn't just lie in the special effects. There were also huge creative hurdles. They had to figure out how to balance multiple timelines, Rand moving forward in his own timeline, while simultaneously traveling backward through the past to witness his ancestors' lives. It was like trying to make sense of a Rubik's Cube of time, culture, and space. "You're trying to do something that's mind-bending when you stop and think about it," said Napper. But in the end, it all came together thanks to months of planning and collaboration with the team. From the concept art to the smoke effects to the intricate details of Ale culture, every piece was carefully thought out to ensure this scene lived up to fan expectations. When discussing the most challenging visual aspects of The Road to the Spear, it's impossible to ignore how crucial smoke and ethereal visuals were in this episode. Rhuidean, especially the trial within the glass columns, required the perfect blend of practical effects and visual effects. Napper and his team spent months testing these effects, working to capture the feeling of disorientation and wonder as Rand steps into the trial and experiences the past through his ancestors' eyes. The trial itself, where Rand sees moments from the Ale's history, was a daunting scene to execute because it combined physical effects with the need to visually express the flow of time, memories, and ancestral visions. "We created 7 versions of Rhuidean on a stage," Napper explained, describing the technical challenges. The team wanted to balance visual elements that would evoke a sense of time travel, with Rand's memories and his ancestral history blending seamlessly. This was achieved using a mix of smoke, practical sets, and digital effects. While the visual effects team worked on creating the ethereal nature of the trial, the key to selling the sequence wasn't just in the aesthetics but also in how Rand's character was portrayed. To achieve this, they brought in actor Joshua Stradowski, who plays Rand, to take on the massive challenge of portraying multiple characters across various timelines. Stradowski wasn't just playing Rand, he was also tasked with playing 7 distinct characters in a single scene. This included embodying his ancestors, each with different physical traits, mannerisms, and personalities. Josh has just done so well with all 7 characters. "It's wonderful," Napper remarked, acknowledging how the actor's performance was integral to the success of the sequence. The level of detail was staggering. Even the costumes were meticulously crafted, with elements like scars on faces and the weight of clothing designed to reflect the age and history of Rand's ancestors. Another standout sequence in The Road to the Spear is Moiraine's vision. She's in the rings, spinning and twisting through thousands of potential futures, with the weight of destiny and uncertainty pulling her in every direction. It's a mind-altering experience for both her and the audience, but how did they film it? Was it all just wild visual effects, or was there some clever filmmaking behind the scenes? Napper explains that this sequence wasn't just about making something visually striking, it was also about capturing Moiraine's sense of powerlessness as she witnesses these futures unfold. "What I wanted to convey was the idea that these rings are projecting Moiraine into these possible futures, but she's powerless to affect them. She can't manipulate them, change them, or do anything Moiraine would normally do," Napper explained. "She's just a visitor in these visions." To pull this off, they drew inspiration from a filmmaker named Tony Hill, known for his experimental work in the 70s and 80s. Hill had a unique style of rigging his camera to create disorienting, almost surreal shots. Napper thought Hill's approach would be perfect for Moiraine's vision sequence. I really felt that was a perfect way to express what we were going for, he said. But creating the rig to get that perfect disorienting effect wasn't as easy as it sounds. It took months to get this rig right, Napper admitted. We tested and tested and tested until we figured out the right setup to make it work. Then we had to figure out how to make it work perfectly. They eventually teamed up with a Czech engineer named Thomas, who helped them build the rig, which they took with them to different locations throughout filming. It wasn't just a set it and forget it process either. Every time they used the rig, they had to adjust the floor of the set to make it work. We had to destroy parts of the sets, actually dig into the floors to make it work, and that was a bit controversial at times, Napper laughed. But it was all worth it to get that sense of helplessness that Moiraine feels as she spins through the potential futures. The result is a sequence that feels visually dizzying and emotionally charged. You really feel Moiraine's helplessness as she's just a spectator in her own future. If there's one thing that the Wheel of Time fans love to geek out over, it's the Age of Legends. These ancient times were when the world was at its peak, before everything went downhill. In The Road to the Spear, we get another look at the Age of Legends, and it's not just a throwaway flashback. The Age of Legends plays a crucial role in this story, influencing everything from the Ales culture to the rise of the Dragon Reborn. For Thomas Napper, getting the chance to direct scenes in the Age of Legends was a dream come true. I've wanted to get my hands on the Age of Legends since I started working on the show, he admitted. The beauty of this episode is that we show how Mirian Sedai's actions in the past affect Roderick, Yonai, and the Isle culture. You get to see this domino effect, how what we had then is now long gone, and the Isle are rebuilding from scratch. Napper also pointed out the cool juxtaposition of the Age of Legends' futuristic technology against the harsh reality of the present. It's a sci-fantasy world, he said. You're going into the past, but it's still futuristic, and that's what makes it so fascinating. One of the coolest moments in this episode is when we see how certain objects, like a small tree in the Age of Legends, eventually evolve into something much more significant in the present. There's this small tree that becomes the Tree of Life later on, which was a fun detail to work out, Napper explained. Even the carts they use, those change too. They go from these advanced vehicles in the Age of Legends to much simpler ones as time goes on. Creating this version of the Age of Legends wasn't just about fancy CGI or elaborate sets. It was about the details. Napper and the team spent months figuring out the size of objects, how they'd evolve over thousands of years, and how to make everything feel authentic. It's like a history lesson without feeling like a history lesson, Napper said, adding that it's those small details that make the world feel real to the viewers. Behind every epic scene in the Wheel of Time is a lot of hard work and creativity. The team pulls off some incredible stuff, blending stunning visuals with deep character moments. Thanks for watching Collider. See you next time.